And on presentation mode like this.
Yeah, we can see what you have projected, which is secure the enterprise, secure the cloud. But what I'm asking is the
Yeah.
slides can move when it gets to secure the enterprise. That's what the guide our attendants are asking us to show them, for them to see what we are talking about is actually relevant to what we are
Yeah.
presenting. Yeah. So you move by the
Okay.
slide. And sorry, team, that we had this technical hit. We sincerely apologize for this. Kindly bear with us. We're gonna fix it up and have everything rolling. Sorry about that.
So I don't know whether we'll continue without the animations, but
We can see the slides. Kindly go ahead.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, so sorry again for the inconvenience. So we are talked about this. We talked about where the state was. So this again was how the legacy systems used to work. Again, this is in the beginning before the bad guys had again invaded our systems. So people were thinking, is there a better way in which you can be able to improve security? Is there a way that you can be able to make these solutions a little bit, by reducing the cost, reducing the complexity, and this was introduced again before by once the UTM market again came into being. So we transitioned again from the legacy systems, then we moved to UTM, which again consolidated all these solutions. Now the repercussions were these solutions were a little bit complex to manage, as we had maybe one or two guys managing the whole security department. We add more appliances, which again introduced a high learning curve, a long learning curve. And again, when you want to introduce, for example, an IPS, people were again shouting, what is again an IPS? We had issued some POs about a purchase of an IDS before. So the architecture had to be redesigned. People had to think on a way to be attacks, automate all these processes, since we had introduced a lot of solutions in a more complex manner. Then make sure that we can be able to consume whatever that are coming. Then we were to come up with a way in which we have to bind all these users, applications, and content into the rules by trying to reduce the kind of complexities, the kind of gaps that were introduced in the previous security solutions, by increasing visibility. By ensuring that there is a user who logs in, we can be able to map it, not just trying to showcase the address. So how did we achieve this? Again, first, instead of doing the layer 3 mapping of the IP address, trying to block, for example, IP number 172.60.1.10, be able to do this by ensuring more visibility. This IP can be a server, this IP can be a user, this IP can be one of the gadgets, maybe an ICS module that is embedded somewhere. So by ensuring that we are mapping policies based on the protocols themselves, not the IP addresses, because again we talked about how DNS cannot be port 443. We'll be seeing this one shortly while we'll be going through the labs. Then Joe Davis can be belonging to finance. So how can we be able to come up with policies which, by for example saying that only finance team can be able to access or use the remote access tools? Like for example, in the East African market, for example in Kenya, we sometimes see attacks which are coming from inside. This is because there are no granularity in policies, for example, which are protecting people by ensuring that people only can be able to access what they are supposed to be using, which again can be translated to least privilege. So, for example, someone in finance accessing the remote access tools to be able to allow remote access to the bad guys out there who can now be able to do more advanced commands or manipulations in the network. So by trying to come up with the policies which are going to bind that only the finance team or only the IT team is only supposed to be using these remote access tools like TeamViewer, remote desktop application protocols or RDP, we can be able to reduce the attack service. So again, by ensuring that we understand that wherever this IP is going, we are going to understand that we can be able to do geo mapping to say that, for example, we don't want people to access our services from Canada, not just the IP address. So we also want to ensure that we see what is happening. So who is this? Why is Joe Davis trying to do some backing up of data, which from our solutions you can be able to see that this is a PPT that has been marked private and confidential. So we can't be able to protect what you cannot be able to see. So by the virtue that you can be able to see all these kind of modules, we can be able to see that this is a PPT, not just the content. Allow a user from 1.10 to go to 64.81.2.223. So we can be able to increase more visibility, which is going to enhance on how we communicate and also try to come up with the policies which are more granular. So I normally like the positive security model, whereby you block everything, then you start allowing in what you understand. So again, this is the best way whenever we are migrating from the legacy systems, trying to migrate to next generation solutions, for example, next generation firewall. How are we going to implement? For example, we'll try to allow any. So by doing this using one of our solutions that's called policy optimizer, we can be able to see in this any how many applications can we be able to see? We are seeing HTTP. We can be able to see SSL. We can be able to see Facebook. We can be able to see guys who are doing Twitter. So by doing this kind of visibility can also enable us to understand which kind of applications that our guys are seeing. For example, when we normally do the SLR, we normally tend to see a lot of applications that maybe the customer is not being able to see. So what is the importance of this in terms of policy control? So as you can see in this slide, we try to achieve that the right foundation gives you insight and policy control. So you cannot be able to come up with nice policies if you don't understand the applications that are traversing your network. And again, this can be also enhanced when you're doing the, which again has to understand an application, why am I for my staff applications. So Palo Alto had to sit down, come up with the next generation firewall. How did it look like? So again, to make sure that firewalls, SSL, proxy, IDA and IPS antivirus were again to be offered as a platform. So some say, okay, everybody is doing this. I mean, everybody is doing walling, everybody is doing nowadays proxy, people are doing IDS. So why we are here is to understand that which kind of other value may also be out there this time. So why we're doing this is we are going to come up with some better way in which you can be able, as much as all these solutions are here, they are not introducing one complexities. They are going to ensure that the management is easy. We are going to increase visibility and above all, not try to make sure that this platform is not loaded. We're not compromising on security by, for example, trying to turn off SSL so that you can enhance their performance. So again, all these solutions put together, this is what we call a platform. This is the next generation firewall came. And pioneers of the next generation firewall were Palo Alto Network. This again is when the first solution was introduced in 2007. So everybody again was now trying to rush to be able to make sure that they're also offering the same. Why? Because people saw a lot of differences in terms of consuming all these solutions, delivering all the security components under one, something like under one roof or under one platform or under one single pane. So by default, the next generation firewall. So anybody who's talking about the next generation firewall, one should have app ID as part of the core solutions, user identification, and also content awareness. We can't be able to see what is passing. So even if you're going to change maybe a PowerPoint presentation, you try to name it, for example, instead of PPT, you would say PowerPoint.exe, or you change an exe, which is an executable component, try to make it look like, this is a PPT. So the content identification using other engines can be able to get into data, not only the file extension, so they can be able to understand which kind of components are these, how are they supposed to be segmented under the engines. They are so masquerading one document to be what is not supposed to be, then this is where the content ID comes in. So anybody who is trying to, maybe for example, so as guys try to stitch their solution together, so this is where you'll see that app ID in some solutions is being licensed. Why? These are the guys who maybe did the acquisition of one component, try to stitch it together. So that's why we'll see in a few slides why we'll see a lot of latency when we are trying to turn on these app IDs, this is content ID, because they were not natively made from the ground up. They were not meant to be working in harmony. And again, this is another thing that makes the Palo Alto another step a little bit higher. So what else are we offering? So once these three modules were in the platform, again wildfire to come in. So we wanted to have a solution that can also be able, not only what you've seen using our heuristics engines, using what the content that we understand, we can also be able to take the files which are unknown. What we are trying to do is protect against zero-day attacks. Again, this is where we had to come in. Threat prevention, again, we have to make sure that we also offering threat prevention from the same platform. Again, this is one of the subscriptions. Then, so the difference between, again, the two is that you can have threat prevention, but if you have wildfire, anything that happened maybe in another country, for example, Asia, maybe in Russia there, you can't be able to get this in 5 minutes. So threat prevention, you have to wait maybe for 24 hours for you to get the same stuff. So again, that is the advantage of wildfire over threat prevention. So again, wildfire, again, we'll talk maybe a little bit about it, on how it can be able to have some kind of enhanced capabilities, trying not only do the normal virtualized environment, texting, but also by moving it into one hardware-based analysis. We can't be able to take example running against hardware. So why doing this? Some of the latest attacks, they can't be able to detect that I'm running on a virtual machine, and they cannot be able to execute. So if they are not executing, so which means that you might have a wrong verdict. By now using hardware based, so it's like now trying to run the sample on the laptop, which is going out to talk one-on-one to the hardware. So sometimes they get to query what is the temperature of the hardware. So that is one of the snippet of the code that can be in this malware. So if it doesn't get the right temperature because of the virtualized environment, which is not talking one-on-one to the hardware, which again the hypervisors are supposed to be doing, they know that I'm not running on the real environment, then they cannot be able to execute. URL prevention, we need to understand how we can be able to come up with the nice policies which are going to block based on some URLs. The categorization that has been done from different service providers who can be able to make us understand that these third-party guys have categorized different URLs. So for example, today I don't want anybody who is supposed to be accessing the gambling sites, which again can be able to reduce productivity. Today I'll say I don't want to get anything to do with hacking. So some guys who are trying to get knowledge which is not supposed to be valid during the production environment or during the working hours. Then DNS security, which is another being sought for solution, again, that Palo Alto is offering, that other solutions are not doing out there. So this is again what we are seeing. People want the kind of subscription that is most sought for, more especially in the East African. I don't know about the Nigerian market or the Western market, but I'm sure you guys also might be requesting for this. So someone wants to understand how they can be able to protect against the DGS, which is now the most used vector that the bad guys are trying to use. So how can they be able to use maybe 16 IPs in less than maybe 30 seconds? So DGS, or dynamically generated algorithms. So these are some of the domain names that are being generated by a bot or an a solution that is leveraging on artificial intelligence. So automatically it generates this, and these are going to last for a few minutes. Once this is done, they go to another URL. So if you try to resolve, it might be taking time. So you need a solution that can be able to detect this pattern. So if it added, for example, 6, next it's going to add 8, next it's going to 14. So it can be able to sense this pattern, again using artificial intelligence, to be able to block this pattern as being able to protect against these advanced attacks. So another, one of the newest solutions that we have, again, we have got SD1. I'll be able to talk about Global Protect a little bit later. Let me talk about SD1 because again, Global Protect, this is what we need in times like this. So SD1, again, this is trying to make sure. I think most of the guys might be able to understand SD1, software defined wireless access. So this again tries to leverage on this kind of application visibility. For example, someone who's trying to access from the branch level Office 365, they don't need to come to the HQ for them then to go to the internet. This is again going to increase a lot of latency. So by having some metrics, like if this is an application and is supposed to be destined to the cloud, you immediately from the branch level you go to the internet direct. So again, this is going to reduce some kind of hopes that are going to be incurred before you get into the solution that is on the cloud, that is a software as a service. So this again, coupled with the QoS, can be able to provide some nice user experience, because people are not going to again use the limited resources to the branch to be able to access such kind of solutions. Now, Global Protect, again, this is what we need. But why are we saying Global Protect? So Global Protect is a remote access VPN solution. For example, guys who want to work remotely in times like this. So some guys will say, okay, we get this all for free from other vendors. So Global Protect, like one of our system engineers said, is called VPN, is a remote access VPN on steroids. So why? This is because it has got some kind of spices which make it a little bit special. And these spices are the ones that we normally do subscription or licensing for. So one of it is that it can be able to do heap checks, which is more of a trying to understand what is the security status of the end device. Does it have a latest antivirus? Does it have the latest patches? So it does some kind of NAC capabilities in it, like trying to understand what is the security status of the device before allowing it to access some critical data. So this is another layer of security that we are trying to achieve here. So by doing this, then we are going to create some special routes or access route that if then it doesn't fall under this category in terms of security, then don't allow it to access this kind of special resources or company critical resources. Otherwise, let them access the internet and other kind of sources. Then moving forward, so what was the traditional approach and how did Palo Alto do it differently? So one of it is that the traditional approach, the way the traffic was moving, is that as much as all the solutions were compressed into one solution, one of the problems is that they didn't re-architecture the hardware to be able to accommodate this. For example, maybe you're trying to build a house, you've got maybe 2 kids and maybe one relative there. Then all of a sudden you get visitors. So the house cannot be able to accommodate all this. So this again wanted an approach that someone who is trying to have the holistic approach on what is going to be on board, what is going to be. So being able to have an architecture that is resilient, being able to accommodate the changes, being able to have all these loads without again compromising the hardware utilization. So this overload again was brought because of the way the traditional or legacy solutions are executing or processing the data, which is now in the CDO. So, for example, when a packet was coming from the internet, it had to pass through the SSL, the proxy. So the output of the proxy acts like the input to what? To the WAF. So the output of the WAF had to be the input for the IDS. So this was introducing a lot of, legacies. Was introducing a lot of latency because of the legacy execution. Then, so why is this introducing a lot of lags? For example, if the SSL inspection was taking more time trying to decrypt or inspect all this content before getting it into the proxy, again, which is going to spend a couple of seconds or minutes before it passes on into the WAV. So there needed to be a way in which these things can be able to do once without impacting the performance. We want a packet to pass once, not wait for this to be the output of this, then this to be the output of this to be the input. So the serial processing was bringing in some issues. So that's why you see, some guys, for example, they turn on the SSL, the solution is going to decrease or decrement the performance by more than 30%. So Palo Alto architecture that is called single pass parallel processing. This introduced a new look, a new way in which security had to be consumed. The promise that Palo Alto gave that made it to be the leader all this time is we are going to make sure that you are secure. We are not going to turn off your WAF or the IPS so that you can have the performance. Because every customer out there, they want to make sure that they are consuming both. I don't want to say that, I want to get something that is fast while I'm compromising on the security by turning a few things. So we saw this thing happen in, 2 years ago before maybe Palo Alto came in. So we were working on, some projects, and you turn on a few modules, then the network is coming into a standstill. Then people ask themselves, what's going on? Can you try to turn off the WAF? This is after a couple of calls. We realized that some guys came yesterday. They turned on some modules. When you are doing some projects, some things cannot be done during the daytime. So they test while people are at home. No workload is on the infrastructure. Then later on in the morning, now when people are coming to the office, you realize that there is a chaos. People cannot be able to have the experience that they had yesterday. So these were the issues that the single pass parallel processing architecture was to do what? Was to address. So let's see how single pass parallel processing or SP3 is executing the same packet. So one of the things that it did is to re-architecture, realign the plate instead of these engines being sequentially or in a serial manner. They can't be able to be in parallel. So you don't need to wait for this packet to come from this end so that you can be able to consume it. So from the internet, the packet comes, it's spanned. You create a copy of the original data. So it's going to pass through these engines once, so what you call single pass, and which is going to be done in parallel. Once this is done, security is done, policy is implemented on this level based on what is the outcome from the engines, then you can get your packet or your data on the fastest or the lowest time possible. So this is one of the key components that is leaving most of the vendors trying to worry how can they be able to catch up, with this kind of architecture. So this is what is going to make sure that if you, for example, do Palo today, the retention period, because it works. The way it works is that this is, the it works is one of the things that we're getting from the end users. Why are you able to retain Palo Alto for all this time? Why are you, not trying to understand some new solutions that are coming out there? So by the fact that it works, it really makes this solution easily be able to adopt with others. For example, there's what we call dynamic policies, whereby, for example, if you use application filters, I want to come up with a policy that says that if you see an application that is peer-to-peer, that has got maybe a risk level of 15 and has got 1, 2, 3 characteristics, block it. So tomorrow, if a new application comes in, so Palo Alto automatically is going to make sure that it's going to follow your policy and put the application where it fits on these filters, and then do what? Put it on the policy that's supposed to be done. So why is this? One, this kind of automation is going to ensure that you're not going to have a lot of time, trying to have administrative tasks on the hardware, but again, focus on trying to do other things, productive things, maybe threat hunting and other stuff. Now that we have, limited resources. So how, maybe some of you guys might be wondering how, the right platform looks like. So the foundation. So we've got the 7000 series, PA 800 series, 5200 series, PA 220, and 3200 series. You'll see from the first generation, there was a 5 times increase in throughput, 7 times decryption throughput, because we believe that for us to have enhanced visibility, decryption is inevitable. Some of the vendors will not try to tell you to turn on a decryption because they know the kind of performance degradation that's going to happen on the hardware. They'll not tell you to turn on what? Decryption. For us, under a solution that we call BPA, best practice assessment, we'll come, we'll try to get out the configuration, we'll see that you have not turned on what? Decryption. Then we'll tell you that you're missing more than 85% and you need to turn this on. We believe this because we believe in the hardware, we understand the way the single pass processing works. The optimization that has been done on the hardware is going to make sure that you are going to get all these kind of protections. You're going to have this kind of visibility without compromising on the performance of other issues. So we'll tell you that, please, can you try to make sure that you've turned on the decryption? So I want to understand if there is any question up to this level, please. A question, or we can continue. Okay, perfect. So we'll continue. So again, 20 times decryption sessions. Again, we have to make sure that we're missing the number of sessions which are going to come in. As you predict from both sides, use that the number of SSL applications that are coming to the internet is like we are having 3% each and every day, the increase in terms of the number. So the projection is by something like 2025, more than 98% of the applications which are going to be embedded on the internet will be HTTPS or will be encrypted. So you need a platform that can be able to scale, a platform that can be able to have this kind of performance without, again, having this kind of impact. So I didn't talk much about Global Protect. Again, this is the best time. Maybe we can expand it a little bit later.
Ezra.
Yes. You'll talk about Global Protect a little bit later.
We're doing the Kahoot.
Yeah. So after this, I want you to run the Kahoot. After which, I don't know whether after I go through the use cases, you can to talk about new solutions that you have for enabling work remotely. Maybe just some kind of an overview search on it, because something such kind of quizzes on which kind of solutions that we have. What do you think?
Okay, no, I was just preparing for the Kahoot. Just let me know when you want to. Just continue. Let me know when you want me to do the Kahoot.
Okay, fine. Let me go to some use cases. Then do the Kahoot. We have a break. Then we talk a little bit on the Global Protect or the Prisma. Then we'll proceed to the labs.
Okay.
Okay. So, anybody with a question before we proceed? Okay, thank you. So, again, we've talked about all these solutions. We've tried to understand which kind of a value that Palo Alto again is trying to bring on board. We talked about things like DNS security, which is a very key component that can be able to combat against DGAs based attacks. Then we also talked about some of the licenses like threat prevention, URL filtering, talked about the global protect, why we need the licensing, and why if you need just a flat VPN, this is again free. Then we talked about Wildfire, which is an advanced sandboxing environment. We talked about some of the things, including the hardware-based analysis, where we can be able to get the solution, go through a rigorous testing on the hardware before coming up with the verdict. So, what are some of the business use cases we can be able to have this hardware or this kind of platform be able to assist us with? Now, one of it is trying to enable the PCI DSS or SWIFT compliance. So, for the banks, this is one of the critical things that they have to do. Based on some of the massive attacks that happened in one of the banks, where massive transactions were done in a limited period of time. This is because again of lack of visibility and other things. Then the compliance about the SWIFT and PCI DSS, which is now going to contain how payment, how online transactions are going to be done. So PCI DSS, which is a payment card industry digital data standard data security standards. So this again focuses on how you can be able to securely uh, be able to contain some critical data or the credit card numbers. How can they be able to be segregated, be able to come up with some kind of policies which are going to limit who's supposed to be accessing such kind of data. So again, these are some of the requirements which are 12. So one of it again is to be able to make sure that you have a secure solution or a firewall that can be able to protect this card holder data. And then another requirement is to be able to make sure that you don't use the default password, like next, 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 next. How can you be able to do this? Reduce the number of any rules, then being able to protect where exactly, there's something like a DMZ, but this is more than a DMZ, coming up with a zone only for the card, the card holder data, the server itself, come up with its zone and limit the access, then come up with other policies, trying to make sure that the encryption is done, transmission, that is making sure that you transmitting this kind of data in a special way, in an encrypted manner, then trying to come up with a way or applications that can be able again to secure this data. Trying to make sure that you have got that can be able to do deep packet inspection to understand whether it's there malware that's trying to traverse. There are some programs which might also compromise the server or the where you store this data. Then also trying to make sure that we have restricted access, what you call least privileged access, or being able to only allow 4 or 3 users to be able to access this kind of a server, not everyone. Then also making sure that the physical access, do we have also some kind of physical approach, maybe biometric data, trying to make sure that who accesses there and at what time, and among others. Again, there are 12, we cannot be able to go through all of them. Again, there are things that we can always provide in real time if people want to focus on the PCI DSS, on how we can be able to achieve this. So, and going to the Swift bit, how can you make sure that this framework has been implemented, or if your institution is compliant with this framework? For example, number one, restrict internet access. So this is one of the basic things again that our solution can be able to do this. Then reduce the attack service vulnerabilities by making sure that you've turned on all the engines and you're not going to of these engines based on the performance issues. Segregate systems with the general IT, making sure that you can have different zones and have policies which are going to allow interzone communications for people who need. So then you will see that one of the things that on the PCI DSS, physical secure environment. So then physical security again is the key. If you don't have also right architectures from the physical part of it, then we can be able to have a secure environment. No, and limit the access. This again, when you see, you'll be able to see that some of these things are happening from the other side. There are some kind of common frameworks or common components which are being introduced here. So these are some of the things again Palo Alto can be able to do this. So one of the solutions that you can be able to look at is the traditional layout or network layout and how we can be able to make this compliant. So you can see that people have just a router, and people like user workstations can be able to access what all these servers, card holder servers, infrastructure servers, development servers. It's like they are on one subnet. So how can you be able to securely in a compliant way be able to execute this? For example, you can see that we have got segregated cardholder data or cardholder servers into one zone. And this is behind what? A firewall, not just a router or a switch. This is going to ensure that we've got special users under a certain department, for example, finance department. We can have a policies that only finance department, again, what we started using a user ID, be able to say that I want to map from my domain controller only the users who are going to be under the organization or unit or OU finance. They are the only guys who can be able to access what? Cardholder servers, not just an IP address. Because people can be able to have one IP address be mapped to another computer, or DHCP tomorrow can be able to allocate an IP address that you had done with a policy before. So this again increases visibility and kind of compliance on PCI DSS. So this kind of granularity is segregate, having some policies, and also trying to reduce who accesses what. Again, this granularity can be able to make sure that PCI DSS compliance. Again, going to the Swift, how can we be able to make sure that this Swift compliance is enhanced or is achieved? So you can see that this is the architecture that used to have, components used to communicate like they're on a flat network. Then see that there is a special approach is to ensure that we've got high availability. We can be able to communicate data center one, same we have got one we call that Swift zone, PCI zone. So you will see that we can be able to come up with the policy, again understanding that Palo Alto is a zone-based firewall. We can be able to have granularity that who accesses this PCI zone, who accesses this PCI zone. We can be able to limit, for example, you cannot allow PCI zone to communicate with the Swift zone. So by doing this again, enhances that kind of compliance and make sure that the solution that we are giving helps us achieve. Then another vulnerability that we have is the users. The users themselves have vulnerability. Why are they? So like most of these maybe senior management people, they normally write a password, they on a sticky note, they put it on a computer. So how secure is this? So someone comes in, maybe a visitor, takes that note or grabs that password or takes a screenshot, then can be able to use it maybe during the other time that these people are not there. We had this kind of breaches happen in Kenya before, whereby someone used my password. So how can we be able to ensure that even if you take the password, you cannot be able to do you cannot be able to access these critical resources? Maybe this was done by other users who don't understand how phishing emails are, by maybe other organizations which don't have some special policies in which they can be able to create this kind of user awareness. So we ensure that we can be able to come up with multi-factor authentication, which might also be difficult, but because it again introduces some kind of complex. Some applications might not be compliant with this kind of multi-factor authentication. So how can we be able to introduce this kind of multi-factor authentication again securely? So how can we be able to protect against credential-based attacks? So again, this is how they look like, how this is how they happen. But how can Palo Alto be able to secure against this kind of attacks? Maybe someone who had stolen the password, maybe the credentials were stolen via maybe a phishing attack. How which week are this going to happen? So first is to identify and block the phishing emails. So that is one way or one vector that we can be able to protect against this. How can we achieve this? Number one, Wildfire has got a database that contains some of these bad guys. We know these bad URLs. We know these bad IP addresses. So by making sure that we can be able to block this, then we are going to make sure that these kind of phishing emails are going to reach, are not going to reach John Doe or John or maybe Susan, who might be one of the users. So this is one way in which you effectively to do that. So whatever this phishing is going to come, we check against our URLs, then prevent this access. Then we can also be able to detect based on known usernames. For example, we can be able to use detect some domains. We can be able to get into the data or bucket that this is a correct username, for example, that is trying to go outside. So people are trying to use maybe corporate credentials to be able to log in a site that we know. So we can be able to get into that kind of content or that bucket. We know that this is a guy who is trying to submit to a certain site that we don't trust, and be able to block such kind of attacks or credential theft. This is because again you can be able to have integrations with other assets, for example, the domain controller and other kind of modules. So another one is try to address this via enabling MFA to applications which might not have that kind of seamless flexibility. So how do we achieve this? For example, we'll come up with policies which ensures that people who are trying to access, for example, resources which are critical, we create a policy that enhances that these are to invoke MFA. Then we integrate to the MFA, write MFA. So even if this guy had stolen the password or had seen the password, so this critical infrastructure is going to make sure that he cannot be able to access because they are going to pass via the firewall. So the firewall is going to invoke a policy. This policy again is going to make sure that it triggers MFA. So the MFA, which is going to be integrated, so people will get the tokens or they get the passwords, which again they are going to put. So if this guy had stolen the password, try to access this critical policy, these critical resources. So what will happen is they will not be able to go further because they cannot be able to do what? Get this kind of token. Because the policy says that if a person tries to access this critical infrastructure from the firewall, the policy says that you invoke MFA. So by doing this, we are going to make sure that these people cannot be able to use the credential that they had stolen before. Okay, any question up to that point? So why is MFA? Because one, some of the challenges that we having is that not every application that has been built, we've got some legacy solutions most of our enterprises are using, which cannot be able to do what? Be able to be integrated with MFA. Yeah, so which might need to be re-architectured or be redesigned from the bottom up. So this is where again Palo Alto becomes very handy. we talked about this. How can we can be able to prevent use of this kind of uh, stolen credentials again, and also corporate. Okay, so having said that, I don't know, status whether you ready.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so status he'll take us through. We'll try to see whether who was listening, or there are some things that you guys missed, so that maybe next time we can try to address them, or you can again ask the questions, and we can be able to get back to you or try to answer them. So over to you, Titus.
Okay. So thanks everybody. Ezra, how do you share your desktop on this one?
So so I think you
Okay.
can see something in the.
Okay.
Titus, I have make you the presenter, so you can share the screen right now.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Can you see it?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Titus, there's some questions. From Jonathan and Charles, which maybe you can kindly answer before we do the Kahoot.
Okay.
We go to the question and answer.
Bro, don't think. Can you show your presentation? Can you check presentation? Can't see it. Please go ahead. See slides. Okay, let me quickly go through the Q&A. So I'm saying, Charles, how does Palo Alto handle context-based networking? Okay, I don't think I understand the question there. I don't know. Charles, could you probably try and elaborate on the question? I don't understand what you mean by context-based networking. As VDOM. Okay, yeah. So yes, we have what's known as
Hello.
virtual.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Charles.
Yes,
That's Charles.
Okay, so basically what I was asking is how does he handle in terms of virtualization, right? Like as VSX is to checkpoint, VDOM is to Fortinet, multi-context is to ASA. How does Palo Alto handle that? Like, okay, I have a physical box. I have one physical box, but I want to virtualize it to like 5 or 4 different boxes. How is it done? And when you are virtualizing it, is the numbers of virtualization instances, is it based on license? Is it license based also?
Okay, yes. So you can also virtualize the Palo Alto Networks appliances. So we call ours virtual systems. So the virtual systems are licensed. So depending on the platform, there's a minimum number which comes standard, free of charge. Then there are the additional virtual systems you can also purchase. So yes, it is licensed and it is based on the number of virtual systems you want to implement on the physical firewall.
Okay, then there is something you were saying with regards access permissions, right? Because you said like on a normal traditional firewall, you can just use just the source address, destination address, and the destination port. So you said for the Palo Alto, it goes like it's brings in the next generation firewall feature where you can start using the usernames and so. So somehow you didn't really touch that aspect of, okay, for the username, right? So how does the username come in? Like what kind of integration comes in? And let's say even if it's to integrate with LDAP, right? So how is it done? Because I know that apart from LDAP, there are other radius servers like the Cisco ICE and maybe any kind of load up servers also that you can use. You didn't really say anything about like maybe agents that can be installed either on the Active Directory, on either on the Active Directory, so that there will be a kind of pull communication between the Palo Alto and the between the Palo Alto and the AL and the Active Directory server or the radio server.
Okay. All right. Yes. So you're spot on. So the user information can be picked from an external source. It could be LDAP, like AD. It could be Radius, could be Cabros, so on and so forth. And the way the integration is done, it's not via an agent. So what you actually do, you actually enter the IP address and the read-only credentials for the directory server where we pick the user details. Then
So
with
are you
that,
trying to say it uses WMI?
yes, Windows messaging
Is it
interface.
WMI?
Yes, Windows messaging interface.
So what about if it is ICE? If the integration is done with ICE, whereby ICE sends some kind of context-based information, like maybe like SGT information to the Palo Alto. ICE doesn't use WMI, or does it? I don't
Yeah,
think
so
so.
for ICE we don't do LDAP integration. That would just be basic radius integration.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's fine. Thank you.
All right.
Maybe to add on what Peter was saying, again, we support a couple of sources. For example, we support Aruba, ClearPath, or XML API. We also support,
Sorry, I can't hear you clearly. It's breaking.
yeah, uh, so we support also third-party wireless controllers. We also do third-party proxies, third-party VPN solutions. We also do terminal services agents as part of the sources. We also do Exchange server, e-directory. We can also be able to do what you say, the FPMI, LDAP. We can also be able to get it from the VPN. We can also be able to do via the portal, someone who's trying to access via the wireless LAN.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Senior Jonathan, so are you saying access can be granted based on domain credentials via the firewall? Correct. So you can actually enforce even authentication based on the users on the firewall. Can the firewall filter wireless users traffic based on DC authorization? So for the authorization part, I think you'd need something like a NAC, right, to be able to do the authorization, right? But then now the enforcement is what would be done by the firewall. Anybody else? Okay, so we're gonna do a quick game of what we call Kahoot, right? And there are about 7 questions here. So quickly open up a web browser and go to www.kahoot.it, or if you have the app, you can open the Kahoot app. And then for the game pin, you enter 5444415. Charles has joined. Tokomi has joined. Ezra, how many people on the, how many attendees do we have? Around 14. Okay. Jonathan, D1, Dan. Akin, FK, Koksab. Okay, is anybody else joining? We're at 8 players so far. Does anybody need more time? Welcome, Uju. Presh and Fizzle. Okay, anybody else joining, or should we start? I'll give 30 seconds to anybody else who wants to join.
Can I join?
Yes, but you can't win. Okay. Now, yeah.
I'm saying Faith can join and play, but she cannot win.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So there are going to be 7 questions. So there are 2 things you must keep in mind when you play this game. So number 1, of course, you must get the question right. But number 2, you must also answer very quickly. Okay. So you must be accurate and you must be quick. Points are given for both. For number 1, of course, you must be correct, and number 2, you must be the quickest one to select the right answer. Okay, so let's start. Question number 1: who were the pioneers of the next generation firewall? Who are the pioneers of the next generation firewall? Was it Fortinet? Was it Cisco? Checkpoint? Palo Alto Networks? 5 seconds to go. 3, 2, 1. Aha. Okay. I see some guys saying Fortinet there, right? And Cisco. Yes, but as Ezra said, Palo Alto Networks created the first next generation firewall back in 2007. Okay, top of me is number 1. Good job. Followed by Charles. Question number 2. What is the secret source of PAN to ensure consistent performance without compromising security? Ezra mentioned this. How do we ensure consistent performance without compromising security? Is it multi-pass architecture, single pass? Is it 100 gig? QSFP? Is it wildfire? Yes. And the right answer is SP3, the single pass parallel processing architecture. And Charles takes the lead, followed by FK. Question number 3: what is the name of the Palo Alto Network sandboxing environment? Is it called Firefox, Bushfire, Matchbox, Wildfire? What is the name of the Palo Alto Network sandbox environment? Two seconds to go. Spot on. Hey, someone said bushfire. Okay. Yeah, wildfire. Hey, FK is on fire. Charles, be on the lookout, huh? Question number 4, which of the following features come by default without licensing? Okay, which one of these is not a licensed feature for Palo Alto Networks? Is it wildfire, Is it app ID? Is it DNS security? Is it threat prevention? Which one comes free of charge and does not require a license? The correct answer is App ID. So Wildfire is licensed. This is our sandboxing capability, right? I see many of you guys say threat prevention. Threat prevention is also a licensed feature. This is where we have things like IPS, antivirus, anti-malware, DNS sinkholing. Then, yeah, nobody chose DNS security, but App ID is one which comes or does not require a license. Hey, D1. Charles still holding on to the top. Oh, just by 18 points. Charles, they're coming for you, man. Okay, question number 5. Which subscription protects us against domain generation algorithm-based attacks, DNS-based attacks? And I've actually just given the answer there. Which subscription protects us from advanced DGA, domain generation algorithm-based attacks? DGAs are used in DNS. Exactly, DNS security is what protects us from the DGAs. Oh, we have a new leader. Tofumi, followed by Charles, then FK. Now the second last question, what is the name of the remote access VPN solutions? What is the name of our remote access VPN solution? So interestingly here, there are actually two answers. So what is the name of our remote access VPN solutions? Right, so Prisma Access, yes, is the newer cloud delivered VPN access solution. But then there's also Global Protect, which is a license on our next generation firewalls, both of which offer remote access. Hey, Charles is back at the top. Okay, now for the last question. What is the name of the category of cloud security offerings? What do we call our cloud security solutions? In which brand do we brand them? Is it Strata? Is it Prisma? Is it Cortex? Is it NGFW? The cloud security solutions actually fall under Cortex. I mean, under Prisma, sorry, under Prisma. So yes. So 3 of you guys have it correct. So let's see who is at the top. So in 3rd position is D. Well done. We have Akin in number 2 and number 1. Let's see. Yes, Charles held on to his position. So Faith, Ezra, what do these guys get for winning?
Harry.
Yeah. So they will get the voucher, online voucher. Okay, 100, 150, and 200. First place will be around 200. Second place will be around 150. Third place will be around 100. So it will be coming to your account. Can you please give your email ID? Drop me an email. For all the winners, drop me an email ID and mobile number so that we can do this Ssl transfer to your account, and it will be online voucher and you can get it. We will process it by Monday.
Perfect.
Before Monday. Not before Monday, we will process it soon.
Okay, so Charles, Akin, and D, please drop your email and phone numbers on the chat.
Yes.
Then the team will pick them up and ensure you get your prizes.
Yeah.
And that's it for my end. So back to you, Ezra.
Okay, thank you very much for the next session, traders. I hope they enjoyed. Uh, so this is lab time. So I'm going to share a link here. Ari, Ari, can I present?
Can you, Hirza? You can start presenting.
Okay, okay, thank you. So I hope they can see lab time. So guys, please, now this is the time for hands-on. We'll have few activities so that at least we can see for those ones who are asking how we can be able to have users map instead of IP addresses, how we can be able to use maybe active domain controllers, how can we be able to use now the user identification that we've got from these different sources in order to come up with a policy that is now more granular and more visible. How can we be able to have this kind of access that at least when you look at the policy, it makes more sense. Then we will also be able to see how we can be able to use the same solution to be able to protect against uh, attacks that are going to be based either through threat prevention, attacks that can maybe be evasive, that can be able to be using port, for example, port 53, which can pretend to be DNS and they are not DNS. So in short, how can we be able to come up with application-based policies? Then also you can be able to see how we can be able to do remote access. So some of you might be asking, does Palo Alto have solutions that can be able to enhance remote access, or they can be able to enable the the users to be able to work this remotely? So global protectors, you guys talked about it. For those who answered it correctly, so we've got Prism access. We've got also global protect for those guys who have got hardware. So this is the best time that you guys can also be able to take advantage of some special offers that we have. So for those guys who don't have maybe hardware, so we've got some special promotions that for Prism access, whereby you can be able to allow your users to work from remote, you know, for free for a limited time. So if you have this kind of opportunity, this is the best time that you guys can be able to leverage this Prism access to be able to use these kind of tools to enable guys work from home during this pandemic period. Okay, so student link, this is the one that you're going to use. Please use your corporate credentials or your email usernames and then the passphrase. So if you have a challenge, please let me know so that you can be able to assist each other. So this is the lab time. Once everyone is logged in, let me know so that at least you can have some kind of an overview. Then we can be able to go through the exercises. I'll be able to go through maybe very fast on what you expect, which kind of exercises that you're going to do. Then I'll let you guys to continue and I'll still be online to be able to assist. I hope we'll have minimal challenges. Okay. So if you still have a question, you can just leave it there. We'll try to answer you. Or you can raise your hand, as I saw like one for Charles. Then you can either ask a question via maybe the voice, or you can just use that chat to be able to ask that question. I'm seeing Charles is saying he's getting an error 403 forbidden. Let me know if anybody is successful or it's only Charles, so that you can try to fix it. Let me also see for my.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Harry, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So you are doing the lab session, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
Anybody who's not able to log in? Okay, so I hope everyone is successful. If you see my screen, so this is the overview on how the design of the lab looks like. So we have Global Protect. So we'll be using mobile PC to test how people can work from remote. So using our Global Protect VPN. Then also we have got different types of VPN. So we've got IPsec, that is site to site connecting different branches to HQ. Then we've got also remote access VPN, which is a client-based VPN that you install on either a mobile phone, a laptop, or a computer to be able to access the workloads which might be hosted in the HQ or the cloud. Then we have got clientless VPN. So this enables you to have access to workloads via the browser without just installing anything, or we could just call it browser-based VPN. So you just publish the solutions that you want to access, and people can be able to access them securely using SSL. Then we've got untrusted interface, which is going to simulate the public, which is going to be under 172.16.1.1. Then we have got the trusted zone or interface, which is going to be under the subnet 192.168.11.1. Then we are going to use the same subnet to use it for management purposes. And you'll see the student desktop. So the student desktop is the one that you're going to use in order to access all these resources. So these are already built, so you are not going to do any kind of configuration. So the template has already been set up, the connectivity and the stuff. So we're going to do a few of the activities. So activity number 0 is to log in to the UTD workshop. I believe everybody is successful. So once I go through this, what I'll do, I'll go through what we are going to do, like an overview, what we are going to expect. Then I'll be able to power on one also machine so that you can be able to go through one of the activities together. After which, guys can also be able to do them on their own. I'll still be available remotely to be able to sort you out if you have an issue. So don't worry, if you face a challenge, I can still be able to sort you from the remote. Then, so the first activity is to be able to do granular control of social media and enabling sanctioned applications. So we are going to see how we can be able to go deep to be able to make sure that we can allow, for example, users to be able to do only Facebook posting while trying to block, for example, Facebook chat, or we can be able to block Facebook file sharing only, which is one of the things that assists people to be able to do data breach. For example, try to sneak out company credential data or maybe files. So we can be able to see how we can use the visibility or application ID to try to ensure that we only allow what we want and only can also be able to allocate or give these policies to some people to be able to use these policies. For example, this is a marketing department. How we can be able to use these policies, for example, to allow access for the marketing department to use Facebook to do maybe marketing campaigns, whereas blocking other guys from using this kind of social media. Then also we'll be able to see how we can be able to control evasive applications. For example, those applications that might be using different ports, we can be able to see how some of the applications might be able to use port 53 for DNS, whereas they are not the DNS applications. Then application on the non-standard, whereby, for example, you have a server that is running FTP, and for example, you're not using the normal port, you are using maybe it's not maybe 21. How can you be able to come up with policies which can be able to accommodate such kind of applications? Then the activity number 4 is new app ID characteristic. So how we can be able to use again application identifications to be able to have policies and What if it's a new application? How can it be able to be handled? Decryption, again, we said is very essential to enhance visibility, how we can be able to create these policies to be able to say, for example, if these are hospital URLs or hospital services, or these are online banking services, how can we exempt them from decryption while trying to ensure that all other services are being decrypted to understand which really applications are passing through this kind of content. Then also we'll move to activity 6, whereby we'll do modern malware protection. How can we be able to protect against this? URL filtering, this is activity number 7. Global protect, again, this is where we will be able to have users access resources securely from the remote in times like this where COVID is a disaster. Then number 9, control application usage with user ID. Someone asked this kind of a question, that how can you be able to grant access using maybe domain controller credentials to be able to access maybe certain kind of applications. Yes, for example, we'll see if this is a user D that is from the active directory based on the credentials that you're using. For example, your PC, you log in using your credentials. Based on what the current user of the machine, will see how we can help you access different application based on your user. Then clientless VPN, we will see how we can be able to use clientless VPN. Just you need a browser, just type in the URL, and then you can be able to access those enterprise applications securely. We'll then have a quick preview on, I think maybe I'll start with this one, on ACC. What is it? Which kind of nice reports that you can be able to get? This is the activity number 11, and then you'll be able to give a feedback under activity number 12. Okay, so let's start with activity 0, I think, which most of you guys have done. Then I'll do activity 1, then we can be able to proceed on. Start by accessing. So this is the student desktop. So you can see we've got a couple of applications there. So the first tab is the one that we are in, which is the student desktop that you'll be using to do most of the configurations. Then there is mobile PC, which again we'll use to test the global protect and do the same configurations. Then there is mobile PC, which is again going to be used for clientless VPN. Then there is workshop guide. So this workshop guide is the one that's going to give a PDF document that has got all these activities that you should be doing. You can see them, all right? So you can also see the VM series, which is the virtualized next generation firewall that we'll be using today. So the VM series is part of the firewalls that we normally also offer. Another one that you saw the hardware, the boxes that you guys see, you had seen before. So the feeling and the look is the same. So you will expect the same interface on the VM series. Is the same feeling. So whichever the hardware, whether the smallest one, the PA220, or the 7000 series, which is the enterprise. So the software will be the same, the features will be still the same. So we don't have something like, for the SME interface. Then another one is for the survey, the machine list. If you want to quickly navigate to 1, 2, 3 machines, then the line server. So let's go very fast to the desktop, where we'll also be able to do the activity 1. So if you scroll, you will see that the first thing is to log in to the remote. Is to log into the firewall. Okay, so by doing this, you need to log into the student desktop. There's a browser there, the Chrome one. This is the one that we will be using. So you might have some difficulties in accessing. So on your left, you can see a couple of icons there. So there is feed screen, You can use this tab here if you want more space. So if you press it like this, it will be something like full mode. So if you go to this side again, far left, you click like this again, it can be able to come if you want to switch or see how much time is remaining. So the session is going to take 3 hours. Your environment is going to be destroyed. So please use this time more wisely to be able to do most of these operations. So in case you might need some more time, maybe you can let me know to see whether I can be able to liaise with status to do the extension. But I think this time is good enough. For the fastest guys, I think you can be able to finish this in 1 hour. Until the last activity. Okay, so there is also this full screen mode. You can also click it. You can be able to have all these features like this. So you might miss some of the things. So if you'll see something like this. So you can be able to access most of these components. So let's log in. So if you click on the link, it's just a shortcut to the management IP. You will see the credentials on how to log in just below that where you normally use to do the MOTD or message of the day banner. You can also always edit all those to be able to send maybe something like a warning. So let's log in, students. Then the password is UTD135. Okay, so whenever you log in, it normally brings up this welcome pen or pop-up. So this again tells you about some new features from the previous version to the new version. So again, we've got policy optimizer, strict enforcement, and other. You can always go through this to understand most of these new features that have been implemented in version 9.0. All right, so let's go to ACC. Before we go to ACC, this is the normal dashboard that we normally use. So on my far right, it gives out some of the summary of the resource utilization. For example, you can see 12% is the one that is being used for the management because we are using the web-based management to be able to do this. So this is 12%. Then we are seeing 1% utilization on the data plane. Again, Palo Alto has got different planes. If you're doing operations, for example, pulling the reports, doing management, something like configuration, management operations, you are not going to affect the data plane. So data will also be being filtered and all the operations being done without affecting the performance of the management plane. So Syslog, also you can see real time what's happening. On the far left, you can see your management IP, what is the version that you're running, the serial number for licensing purposes, which kind of database versions that you also getting to understand whether you having the latest application version, threat version, antivirus, wildfire, and the stuff. So ACC, so when data is going through the firewall, it has got some kind of SIM capabilities. So it has got some engines which correlate data from the logs that are passing through the firewall to be able to get this. So some of the solutions you might need something like, for example, analyzer, something like fault analyzer for you to be able to get such kind of correlation. So you'll see that which is the application that is being used, like now for example the top 10 applications. So you can see the largest window is written DNS, which means that the DNS is the most used applications. As people use more applications, you'll be able to see them there. and also it gives a color, some color coding to be able to understand what is the risk. Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, which might be more risk. And also up here you can see 2.9, which depending on the kind of applications that are traversing your network, you'll be able to see whether these are more risk applications. The overall picture is your organization secure? What is the risk level of the total organization overview? Like the total overview, like the outlook, what is the status of the risk? So what is the status in terms of the risk is your organization based on the applications that are traversing and how they've been tagged. So for example, you can see here NetBIOS is number 2, which means that it may not be risk, and insufficient data is 1, which is mostly informational. Okay, so we can be able to see as we go down, we can be able to see different dashboards. For example, source IP, we've got destination IP, destination source. It gives all this data, which is the most visited country, for example, source regions. Again, some nice data. If we could have been seeing more traffic passing through the device. And here you can also be able to have these filters. You might not be able to see the data. So we'll be able to use these time filters to be able to be having, some more granular data. For example, when you're doing the searches. Threat activity here, this is where you see which kind of threats that are traversing your network, blocked, and also the tunneled activities. Also from here, you can be able to come up with your own customized widgets to be able to come up with a good dashboard based on what you want to have. So you can be able to have this kind of widgets. It might be application usage, which are the applications that are using standard ports, blocked activity, which kind of blocked threads, which are the top, for example, destinations, which hosts are visiting malicious URLs, so that once you log in like this, you can be able to see all this kind of overview just from one single pane. Source IP activity, tunnel activity, and so forth, and so on and so forth. So under the monitor, we can be able to see different types of traffic. We can be able to see from which zone, which source zone and destination. So we'll see shortly here. This is where once we apply user identification, we'll be seeing names here instead of just that being blank. And this can be also be able to be used to make policies. Then the applications here, we'll see DNS instead of just port number 53. We can be able to see that we can be able to make policies based on the applications. We are going to see this one shortly. So again, threat here we'll be able to see. So again, this is a summary of if you want to do troubleshooting, how can you be able to go fast and understand what's happening on the network? For example, if I want to filter to see only the DNS traffic. So by the virtue that you've just tapped DNS, it automatically creates this filter, something like a subcommand, which says application equals to DNS. So once you press enter or you press this arrow here, it does automatic filtering to be able to show only people who are using DNS. This can be Facebook and this can be other applications, for example, BitTorrent and the stuff. All right, so let's do activity 1 so that I can give you guys ample time to be able to do all these activities. So if you hover somewhere here, it brings out exit full screen, or you can just press escape like this to be able to go back into the normal mode with multiple tabs. All right, so what is the activity 1? So we've been be able to achieve all this. You can be able to log in. All right, so very important, we need to bring up interface 1. So interface Ethernet 1/1 is the interface that is internet facing. So what you can see that it's something like red. So let's see how we can be able to achieve that. So under networks, Then on the left, you select interfaces. You will see your interfaces that you have on your disposal from the firewall. So you can see some of them are grayed out, which means that nothing is plugged in a normal physical firewall. Then green shows that these interfaces are configured and they are up. So you hover through that kind of icon, you can see some kind of information popping out. So you'll see that this one is red. So if maybe the internet is down, you're trying to figure out what's happening, and you log into the internet, under the network, you select interfaces, you see something that is red, you'll see that something wrong is happening, and it will show you that configured, but it's down. Something like interface administrative down in Cisco. So we select the interface. Then under advanced link state, we select up. We always say okay. So any changes that we make for them to be effective on or to be pushed to the running memory, we need to make sure that we commit. So once we commit, we can be able to see that if you want to preview the changes before you commit to make sure that you're doing the right thing, you can always press here, select the number of the contacts, how many lines you want, then this one can do some like a preview. So green is added, modified, red is deleted, again to make sure that you can see your changes on the right tab. Then change a summary, it can also give you a summary to make sure that what's going to change. Then also validate. You can try to simulate that if I'm going to commit these changes, are they going to go through, or I'm missing some kind of data there before you commit. Then now let's say we commit that one. Always you can see these two buttons here. So once it's pushing, you can always say close. So if you close, it will be running from the background. You can always come just on the bottom here, you'll see tasks. So if you see tasks, you just click it. It will always tell you whether is there a problem that you have or what is the status. So you can be committing while doing something else, then you can come later to check the status. All right, so you can see now that we are now green. So we did test before. Actually, we could have done that test before to make sure that we were not able to access the internet. So there is a bookmark, a folder like something here. So activities is actually we were to check CNN before to see whether this is working. Of course, it could have not worked because the interface was not up. So now, if we access CNN, now you can be able to access it. So if you guys have not done this, so you can try first to access the CNN to see that you cannot be able to access it. Then once you do that, come bring this interface up, commit, and then now try again to make sure that you can be able to see. So this ensures that we have internet connectivity from the LAN to the this site which is hosted publicly. So back to the workshop. So we were able to do this, bring it up, go to activity 0, CNN, we were able to do browsing. All right. So I think I'll do activity 1, maybe explain a little bit, then I'll let you guys continue with the rest of the activities. All right, so what is the activity 1 saying? So background is that every organization is trying to determine how to appropriately control social media or SaaS applications, software as a service applications, allowing them all the highly risk while blocking them all can cripple the business. So we might be having the marketing team which is using the social media applications to run the campaign. So we cannot say that we are blocking all the social media applications. So policy considerations including who can access these social media channels and such applications require granular level to control from the firewall. So we are going to use application identification as one of the features and logging and reporting to make sure that we can verify that guys are doing what's supposed to be done. Now, task one is to make sure that Facebook here is blocked. So we are going to try to access this. So under the lab, you see here lab folder, activity one folder, we'll try to access Facebook. So let's go activity one, let's try to access Facebook. All right, so we can see now Facebook is done what? This is blocked, and we can be able to see the user here is the student user IP address. If we could have done application identification mapping via maybe domain controller, you can be able to see your name. So we will see there user is David and just the IP address, and then application is Facebook based. So you can be able to tell which kind of application that you are just trying to access, not just normal traffic. All right. So as we continue here, so we are going to use the monitor tab. So we want to see subtype equals to deny. So we want to see which kind of this policy that is denying us access to what? To this application. So under the monitor tab, we'll go to the logs and we do subtype equals to deny. We use this filter. So under monitor, okay. All right. So once we have this, we can filter. So what the command that we put there is that subtype equals to deny. So we give us where the action is supposed to be deny, for example. So which kind of application were we using? So you can see YouTube is also deny, and here is the rule. This is the rule that is denying us. So for example, you wanted to understand who is this denying me the access to this application. So if you want more granularity, you can always tab Facebook based, because you might see a couple of applications. But I want to understand which kind of this policy that is denying Facebook based. So you can also add that one as part of the filters there. So if you say okay again, now it's going to give you only the one that is denying Facebook. Again, this is going to make your work easy in terms of management. Troubleshooting time again becomes very efficient. So we want to make sure that this policy here, this rule UTD explicit deny one, we make sure that you can change it to allow Facebook for this marketing stuff. All right. So we are able to establish this. So we're going to go under policies. This is where we configure the policies under security. Then we look for this policy that is that's called UTD explicit deny one. So under the policies, then security, we'll see there is something that's called explicit deny one. Where is it? This one here. All right, so we need to enable a policy that's going to make sure that's going to allow. So we might have created a policy that allows Facebook, but maybe temporarily, put it into work while it's now blocking all the users. So then we came up with a special policy that is going to be grayed out. So there's a policy called UTD policy 00. you will see it's currently grayed out, as you can see in step 2. You want to click enable. So this is a pre-configured policy. It's here. So you can see under application. So the way the policy reads from left to right is that you give it a name, you can give it a tag, then the source that's coming from trust, which is the internal LAN. User can be any for now, but we will see how you can also be able to have some usernames. So for example, it's VPN, it's student, it's beta who is trying to access. So this again gives you more granularity. Destination is going to the internet and application is Facebook. Here is now where the granularity comes in. So if you want to add another application, for example, let's type Facebook. So you can see when you type Facebook, we have very many ways in which you can be able to have granularity. Not just saying that I want to block Facebook. You can only, for example, block Facebook chat. You can only block Facebook base. You can only say I don't want anybody to post, so I want to block all the Facebook posting. So we can be able to come up with more granular rules that are going to be based on what exactly you want, instead of saying I just want to block Facebook. So we want to say that, okay, these guys of marketing, we don't want to see them doing video conferencing. We don't want to see them, doing chatting online. So we can block all this, only allow them to do what? Facebook posting only. Maybe to post the government relevant uh, posting only. Or maybe Facebook mails. We don't want to use them. We don't want them to use the Facebook mail. We want them to use the Facebook uh, only. Corporate mails only. So again, this is how granular we can be able to see. To go. So we want to enable this policy as part of the exercise. So once you select like this, there is a tab here below. But you say enable. Then as always we said, once you do some changes, we need to say commit for them to be functional. So we say commit. So we can close here as it is committing. So we'll see that under application again, you can say allow. We didn't finish going through or the whole policy, but you can always be able to understand that under the application, so actions is set to allow. So we can go to the policy to make sure that under actions it's allowed, right? And but we will be able to do this as we are proceeding. So this is where we normally enable different kind of subscriptions or profiles. For example, if you want to enable antivirus, vulnerability protection, you want to also do anti-spy, URL filtering. This is where we enable all these engines. Okay, so we can always see from the tasks to see whether it has finished committing. All right, it has completed. So can we now try to see whether you can be able to access Facebook now? All right, we are seeing a very interesting feature here. So what you see that we are able to see here, Ssl inspection has been turned on, which means that we are doing decryption. So the policy ensures that anything that is encrypted has to be decrypted to understand that are we really allowing Facebook or there is a malware that is being embedded. So you'll see this is a pop-up that's going to be popping out to all the users that if you proceed with this session in accordance with the company security policy, SSL encryption traffic that you initiate will be temporarily be decrypted so that it can be inspected for viruses, spyware, or malware. Again, you have to say yes to comply with the company, and pop, there you go. We can be able to now securely access Facebook with the policy that we've done, that is on activity number 1. Okay, so now we can review the logs. Once we review the logs, then now you can be able to proceed to activity number 2 on your own. So it's good to just start from where we started, so that at least you can have the look and the feel on how we are doing this. So we go to again to the monitor tab. We say application equals to Facebook as part of the filter to see which kind of policy is allowing us. So under the firewall, again under the monitor tab, application equals to Facebook. All right. So you can see action is allowed. This is the last one that had denied us before, and this is the policy that we enable to be able to allow us. Yeah, and you're seeing some bytes already that have been sent since we logged in, which is very nice. And we can be able to see the support for HTTP version 2. We can be able to see some sessions here also, which is again giving us more granularity. Okay, I hope this makes sense. If you have a question, please let me know, or otherwise we can now start doing the workshops or the activities on our own. So we can always proceed. So activity number 2. So please let's start from 00. Let's do the one that we've done before. Then also proceed to activity 2, and let's carry on. So in case you have an issue, I'll be available to sort you out. Or if you have any question, you can always bring it on. Thanks again for your time. I appreciate so much. If you have any question, please let me know. So you're free to continue on your own.
Ezra? Hello?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Ezra, it is completed the POC or you are going?
No, no, no. I'm just still available. So they are doing now the labs.
Okay.
So I'm still available. If they have an issue, I can be able to sort them out from the remote.
Okay.
So now we are
And
starting now the hands-on labs.
yeah, good.